Hello and welcome to a further webinar with the topic ABB iBus tool supports all KNX Switch Actuators. My name is Thorsten Reibel from the Building Academy Smart Buildings, and together with me is Jürgen Schilder, and we will both present today. Yeah, webinar takes around 1 hour. It's not only presentation today. Again, we will have a good demonstration of the functions of the switch actuators within the ABB iBus tool. I think it's worth, of course, to go into the tool and see how it works in principle. Yeah, as always, we record this webinar, so you get later then the feedback email with the recording and also the presentation. In the presentation, you have also a lot of more slides which are showing the integration of the switch actuator and the iBus tool. But in the video, we show it, of course, to you here in the webinar itself, live with the tool. Let's come to the agenda, what is planned. Short overview about our switch actuator, for those who do not know, the complete range of components. Then we go a bit into the ETS application and the firmware version, because we need here a new application or an updated application and another firmware to be able to operate our switch actuators together with the ABB iBus tool. But everything will be explained, what to do in this case, how to update and so on. Then, of course, we go also a bit in the ABB iBus tool itself a bit, but focuses on integration of the switch actuator in the ABB iBus tool plus the practical demonstration. Just a short overview of the components. We have in our big range of switch actuators 3 families, the so-called Combi switch actuator. We launched around 3 years ago, 9 devices. Combi means it can be used both for switching, but also for or as a shutter actuator, so you are flexible in using this. Mainly prepared for home function or home projects in the home area. And then we have the standard switch actuators, 12 devices with focus on more, let me say, commercial buildings, and then the professional ones with higher switching capacities. The relays are more powerful, and an optional version with so-called energy functions. And also this we will see later inside the ABB iBus tool. So here's the overview. You see here's a Combi switch actuator with a relatively new way of manual operation with this powerful keypad. They can operate 4 channels together, and then you jump to the next 4, and then you can operate also a 24-volt Combi switch actuator easily with a manual keypad. 6 ampere, 10 ampere, 6 ampere. Also valid for the standard switch actuators. This is different relays, but you see here's a traditional version with manual operation via the lever of the relay in principle. So proven components, and the professional, mainly different in terms of the capability of the relay, plus optional these so-called energy functions. Means we measure per channel the current, and out of the normally constant voltage, we can calculate power and energy consumptions. So we have some electrical values. It's an option, but available. And here we talk only about the high performance relays up to 20 ampere. Yeah, we started, as mentioned, 3 years ago with the first application, which is already very comprehensive at that time. So a lot of functions. We have so-called templates to make life easier during commissioning, a lot of logical functions. We have with a Combi switch actuator the option to operate completely also shutter and blinds. A lot of time function specialties like priority functions or forced operation. Some of these will be shown by Jürgen later in the practical demonstration as well. Nice are the central objects, so you don't have to add to each channel the central group address, but you use then the dedicated central object only. A lot of hints inside this application to make life easier. And for energy function switch actuators, you can parameterize and see also the values as mentioned, energy values, electrical values, but also load monitoring is possible, and load shedding, contact supervision, also something we will see later in the practical demonstration. So then in December 21, we have updated our application as well with some minor topics. So we optimized some things here, some topics like load shedding and logic. We optimized the user interface, let's say. We added output names for the numerous channel you might have. So nothing special, but was a further update to version 1.1. Yeah, now we have the situation with integration of the switch actuators into the ABB iBus tools that we need not only a further application, version 1.2, but also a new firmware. Also here, we will show you later how to do this. that you know how to update both the best way and that it works finally. But this has to be done, otherwise it's not possible to connect to the actual version of the ABB IBUS tool 1949. And then it's possible to integrate the switch actuators. So the tool itself, its principle clear. I think it's not replacing the ETSs, but only for displaying status values for operation of functions, for simulation of function, and makes life during commissioning and also maintenance, whatever you have, much easier. Yeah? Each channel is individually available, and especially for the energy function switch actuators, you will see later also, some optical indication of the value. So not only the value itself, but also real graphs, dynamic visualization of the values. Quite nice. Also now in this IBUS tool available. Yeah, let's summarize for the ABB IBUS tool together with the switch actuators. So device handling is a topic. Access to the channels, a nice overview of all the channels. You can see also parameter settings in the ETS. So in case of any troubleshooting, it's much easier now to find out what is the reason. Is there any special function active like blocking of a channel, or any superior functions like wind alarm for a shutter? All this can be seen, and then you might have it much easier to detect what's wrong there. So in case of commissioning and maintenance, you can also check, is everything correctly commissioned? Yeah, and finally with the energy monitoring, a nice overview, optical overview of all these values. Okay, I would stop here from my side and would hand over directly to Jürgen. He will continue and, as mentioned, mainly show you everything live in the ABB IBUS tool.
Hello and a warm welcome. Jürgen Schilder is speaking. Today I will show you the integration of the ABB IBUS tool functions into all our KNX Combi, Standard and Professional switch actuators. After an introduction to the ETS application and firmware releases, I will show you how to update a switch actuator. Then I give you an overview of the ABB IBUS tool and what else can you use it for. However, the main focus is a live demonstration. I have prepared a Combi and Professional switch actuator with energy functions. So later I can show you the functionality here real live in action. The devices are already programmed and I use them to show you all functionalities with the ABB IBUS tool. Let me now begin with an overview of the firmware and ETS application releases. So here you can see the firmware and ETS application versions of the Combi Switch Actuator SAH/S. So we launched the device in October 2019 with the firmware version 0.10, and then some months later we launched other firmware versions, and the ETS application was also launched with the version 1.0. And then in December 2021 we have launched a new firmware together with a new application, version 1.1. So today, we have here the latest version, which is the firmware 0.20 and the ETS application 1.2. So we need in our Combi actuator both versions, the firmware and the ETS application version, to have access with our ABB IBUS tool. So that's why we have to make, for example, an update of the firmware and ETS application in existing installed KNX devices. However, we recommend always to have the latest firmware and also software versions in the KNX devices. So very important, when we make an update here of the firmware and ETS application, we need a sequence to do it. At first, we have to update the firmware and then the ETS application. For both, we have special apps, the so-called ABB Firmware Update Tool app and the ETS Copy and Convert app. More information about the Combi Switch Actuator firmware and ETS application releases you will find here in the release notes, which is available on our website abb.com/knx. And in the feedback email we can also here paste to the link, and then you have from our feedback email a straight link here to this document. So on the next page we have our standard switch actuator SAS. So here we have also launched the devices with the firmware version 0.10, ETS application, and you will see on the right side, November 2022, we launched here also the firmware version 020 and the ETS application 1.2. So here we have the same firmware version ETS application like our Combi actuators. And the same words like before, we need both versions to have access here via our ABB iBus tool. And of course, the same for our professional switch actuators SAS 16. Here we have also started with the firmware version ETS application, and today again on the right side the same version like the devices before. More information again here in the release notes of the professional switch actuators. And our device series number 4, the professional switch actuators with energy functions SAS X1662. Today we have here the same version of firmware and ETS application. So all 4 varieties of devices, Combi, Standard, Professional and Professional with Energy, we have the same firmware and the same ETS application. And remember, we always recommend to have the latest firmware and software ETS application in the devices. So now you have an existing device like a standard switch actuator, a Combi or professional, it doesn't matter, with a, let me say, former firmware version, like from the beginning 010, 011 or so on, and application version 10 or 11. And then if you want to make an update, which is highly recommended, we have to do exactly the sequence of these steps. So at first, we have to use the so-called app, the firmware update tool, to make an update from the former firmware to the latest version, which is 020, by using this app. Later, I show you how this app works. The next step is to make an update of the ETS application from 01 or 011 to the latest version 012. So, and with this app, you can not only make an update of the ETS application, also all linked group addresses and the set parameters are also taken over. So you have not to link again the group addresses after the updating of the ETS application. No, it is also, everyone will be retained. And the last step is to download the new ETS application with the higher version 1.2 into the KNX device by making a full download. So you click only on the button download and then ETS detects, oh, this is a higher version, and then it makes a full download, which will last, some minutes because this is a full application version. So at the end, you have here your switch actuator, your Combi actuator, professional, standard, with the firmware version 020 and the application version 1.2. And then we can have access via the iBus tool and use this functionality of the iBus tool for diagnostic, for testing, and so on. Good, then let's come to the so-called ETS apps. Okay, you know the ETS, this is our standard software tool for configuration, setting parameters, linking group addresses, make a download, and so on. In principle, the functionality of the ETS is enough again. But some things are limited, or some functionality is limited in the ETS, or we have devices with a lot, maybe more power or more possibilities, like our devices, the Smart Touch, for example. Then we need here a so-called app, because in some regions the ETS is limited, and then with the ETS app we can extend the functionality of the ETS. So the manufacturers offer some ETS apps, maybe for more functionality, like here in our Smart Touch or in our application controller for the configuration and so on. And these apps, which comes from manufacturers, are of course free of charge. And other manufacturers, they offer some apps which cost, maybe which makes the working easier with using the ETS. So how to get the apps? Like you get the ETS license, you go to my KNX account, and then you can download these apps, the Update Copy Convert app or the firmware update. So these apps are free of charge. At the beginning you have to place an order. This is a little bit strange, but you have to pay nothing. So at the end you will see, when you come to the menu to pay, then you will see 00. These apps cost nothing. So then you can download the apps from your account and install the apps in the ETS 5, or for example here you see on the right side a screenshot of the ETS 6. You go to settings, apps, and then you can click on the right side, install app, and show in the folder where is the app of your hard disk, and then it's running inside the ETS. Good, then let's come to this first app, the so-called ETS app firmware update 2.0. So this firmware update tool is used to update the firmware of a KNX device. like here our switch actuator or presence detector or other KNX devices. So when you start the app, at the moment, when you start the app, the latest firmware will be automatically downloaded from the internet, and then you will see here your KNX device in the standard topology or building view, and in the ETS firmware app you see all installed KNX devices. So this app has now access to the KNX installation and scans the installed KNX devices and reads out the firmware. Like for example here my device with the individual address 3137, which is installed here on my training board. You see again the product name, it's a Combi Switch Actuator, and you see the firmware which is here in the device is 018, and you get the information that there's an update possible to our latest version which is 020. So then you click here on the device and on the button Update Firmware, and then the update is running. And you see on the next slide this process. At the moment we are here 91%. It remains some seconds, and you see the process is here updating, so we have to wait some minutes. So we recommend to make this firmware update inside a line, so not via IP router or via line coupler, because here a lot of telegrams are on the bus. So please take your USB interface, go into the line of the device, or you use an IP router, and then you use a tunneling connection into the line, also possible. Do not use a multicast communication. So when the firmware is finished, like here on the right side, then you get a message, firmware update completed, and you see again here the Combi Switch Actuator. We have now the version 020, updated is possible, everything is fine. So exactly via these steps you can of course select here more of your devices. I have only here one actuator in my training case. Then you can here select more devices and can make here an update of all your installed switch actuators. So then the next step, we have to update the ETS application from the version 1.0 or 1.1 into the latest version 1.2. You can use our app ETS update and update copy convert. It means not only update, we can do more. With the update function, we can update the application from 1.1 or 1.0 to the version 1.2, including the group addresses which are linked and the parameter settings. So additionally, we can convert the application. For example, you have parameterized in the ETS a switch actuator 4-fold, but you need more channels. What can you do? You can convert this 4-fold actuator into an 8-fold. And then he will copy and paste the channels which you have parameterized, the 4 channels, into an 8-fold, also possible. Or we can copy channels. You set the settings of one channel, and then you say, okay, I want to copy these settings of channel A to my channel B, C, F, H, and so on. Including group addresses, with no group addresses, these are additional possibilities. Or to exchange some channels, the settings, the parameter settings with group addresses or not. So it's a very nice tool which really helps you to have here more functionality with our actuators. So, and here the same, you start the app, you select here your device, like my Combi Switch Actuator. You see I have here a version 1.1, which must be updated. Then I start the update and convert app. Click here on the button update. You see here the other possibilities, convert or copy channels or exchange channels. I click on the button update. You see again there is an exclamation mark which shows the update is possible, and then you click here on the button update. A next window pops up, gives you again the information, the application in the existing device. We have 1.1. You select here which one you update, like for example to the version 1.2, and then you click here on the button Start Update. And then the process starts, and after some moments you will see that this device with the address 3137, the address, of course, the individual address also remains because the device is still installed in ATS. Then it will be updated here to the version 1.2. Which is really good, which we need in our ABB iBus tool access, and then you can close the app. And the last step is then to make a download of this higher version of ETS application. So click like always on the button download ETS application, but then the ETS makes a complete download of the ETS application, which can last some minutes. It's not only a kind of partial, no, it's a full download because we have a higher version of the application. Good, so far these are the steps to update at first the firmware, then the ETS application, and then a complete full download. Good, then let's come to the ABB iBus tool, a short introduction. What is the iBus tool? The iBus tool is a software which at first step is free of charge, so you have to pay nothing. It can installed on any Windows PC, and it helps the system integrator during commissioning, service and diagnostic and so on. So with the iBus tool, we read out the parameter settings and some values of the KNX device. It's a point-to-point connection from the iBus tool to a KNX device and shows all available information in a transparent manner in a kind of visualization. It's not a 24/7 visualization, it's only for diagnostic, a point-to-point connection. So very important that we can make no download with the ABB iBus tool. We cannot link group addresses. We cannot change a parameter. This is everything done in the ETS. So it's an additional tool, which is of course not mandatory, but it really helps you when you work with our ABB iBus KNX devices. So now when we start the iBus tool, we need the individual address of the KNX device. Like for example here, this is a screenshot of a blind roller shutter actuator, JAR/S. Then you see exactly the settings which you have made in the ETS, which parameters you have enabled, or the functions. You see here also some, for example, weather alarms. You see some error messages. You see the status, everything in a really transparent way of a kind of visualization. So you can have access to the iBus tool via USB or via IP interface or IP router, because in the background the iBus tool uses the same bus access mechanism like in the ETS. So we can not only see information, we can also trigger information. Like for example, you can operate here your shutter, driving position up and down. You can also simulate here wind alarms, rain alarms, to see the behavior if your parameter settings are okay or not. Like for example, you can trigger here wind alarm and see, yes, the blinds driving in the safety position up. If they drive down, then you have made a mistake in the ETS parameterization. In this case, stop the iBus tool, disconnect the communication, go back to the ETS, change the parameter, make again a download with the ETS, go back to the iBus tool, start the iBus tool and check again, and then you will see that the problem now is solved. So really nice function here with the iBus tool. If you use the group monitor for testing, you can do it also. You can send telegrams, you can read out telegrams, but here in the iBus tool, you can do it much easier. It really helps you and makes the life easier. Good. Functions which are not enabled in the ETS, like here, for example, they are gray shaded, and then of course you cannot test it. So the steps, for example, the first one is in the ETS. You set the parameters, like for example here for the shutter functionality of my combi actuator. You go here, for example, to safety, weather alarms, and set a parameter. When there's wind alarm, the shutter and blinds should drive in the safety position up. In rain alarm, for example, down. If you have frost alarm, they should drive to an individual position of 20% hiked and 20% slat position. And if there's a functionality like block active, we want to call C number 11. But how to test all these settings? The priority, like here, the last parameter, the priority of weather alarms blocked and forced. How you test it? Normally only in the group monitor, in the ETS, send telegrams, see the reaction and so on. But here with the iBus tool, it's very easy. And later you will see that it really makes fun to work with the iBus tool, because it gives you so many information, everything here in a kind of transparent way. Good. Okay. Really nice tool, the iBus tool. So the devices which are supported at the iBus tool in this version, for example, at the latest version, our analog actuators, the DALI gateways, energy module, fan coil actuator, fan coil controller, valve drive controller, line coupler. With the iBus tool, for example, you can also read out the filter table of a line coupler, which is also sometimes important when a telegram does not pass a line coupler, then you can read it out via the iBus tool. Also very nice feature. Or the power supplies, and of course now with the latest version 1.2 also the combi actuators and the switch actuators. Good. For DALI we need this iBus tool, because we have here a so-called configuration of the DALI gateway, where you can address your DALI ballast here, with address 1 to 64, and you can also link the DALI ballast to groups. You see here in the DALI overview here also, if there is a lamp failure or ballast fault and so on, we can trigger the DALI addressing and so on. So for working with a DALI gateway, the iBus tool is mandatory. Additionally, we have a demo mode. In a demo mode, you can simulate a device to see the functionality of the iBus tool. We have a discovery function inside for IP devices. So the iBus tool then scans the local IP network and shows all KNX IP related devices, like the IP router, like the IP interface, for example, the energy analyzer, QoS, our application controller, or the logic controller. Because the devices are delivered with the so-called auto IP settings, DHCP, and then they get automatically IP address, but you need the IP address if you want to have access via the web browser, like in the energy analyzer. And with the iBus tool, then you can see here the IP address, and you click here on the energy analyzer, click here on the button, open website, and then your standard browser opens, copy and paste the IP address, and you have immediately access then to the energy analyzer. Additionally, you see the MAC address and some more informations. Plus some more functionalities here in the IP world, like blinking of the IP and so on. Good, the connection to a KNX device can happen via USB, KNXnet IP tunneling when you use the IP router, IP interface, or also via KNX IP routing when you use the IP router. So when you use the USB interface, don't do it parallel with the ETS, because the ETS uses the same bus access like the iBus tool. And when you have still running the group monitor, then the ETS needs then the USB interface, and then the iBus tool cannot have access to a KNX device. So please, in this case, stop the group monitor or close the ETS and start then the USB interface here in the connections of the ABB iBus tool. More information about the ABB iBus tool are available on our website, abb.com/knx. Here you can download, of course for free of charge, the iBus tool. And in our training qualification database, you can find also webinar recordings and webinar slides about the ABB iBus tool. So then let's come to the main topic of today, the ABB iBus tool and our KNX Switch Actuators. How we can have here access and test everything. So, but before, I would like to give you some information about the priorities here of our Switch Actuator. So on the right side, you can see here a screenshot. I want not to go really into deep, but here on the bottom, we have our output, our relay, and then we have here our different levels of priority. So the lowest level of priority is here on top. Here, for example, we have the group object for switching on and off, for central switching, for scenes. We have the time functions. We have our logic, staircase, flashing, and so on. This has maybe, let me say, the lowest priority. And then when we start the iBus tool, we have a higher priority than here this priority. It means when we start the iBus tool, and in the iBus tool we switch a channel on or off, this channel is not longer listening here to this local group object for switching. So via the iBus tool, we block, for example, here all this functionality. But on the other side, we have another higher priority, the highest priority. These are our safety objects, safety priority 1, 2, 3, the forced operation, and the block function. So this has a higher priority than the iBus tool. What does it mean? If there's a telegram sent by a sensor in the KNX world via KNX telegram to the switch actuator, this safety priority overrides what we're doing at the moment here in the iBus tool. This is the highest priority. Good. Okay, how to have connection to a KNX device? At first we start the iBus tool. We go to the menu where you have here connect to a device. We click on the button connect. Before, you have to set the correct address, there's the correct interface in the connection manager, USB or IP. You have before set all the parameters in ETS, and you have also made a download of the ETS device. And then we start here our ABB iBus tool. It's not mandatory to link group addresses because the iBus tool does not communicate via group telegrams, via so-called special property telegrams mechanism. Good, and then we start here the iBus tool. In some cases, you get here conflict or you get a message, for example, no access possible. Then please check the correct settings of your connection, or when you use USB, close the ETS. Good, and then when we have the connection to a device point to point, we are at the first step. We are so-called in the display mode. You can see the status of the devices in different tabs here on the left side, different menus. And if you want to take action, if you want to trigger something, then you have to go to the configuration mode. So please click here on the button configuration mode. And here you can read, for example, more details of the device, like the device type or the application version 1.2, the individual address, and what is it like here, for example, my Combi actuator. Good, that's what I like to show you live. Also this new function here, revoke. Revoke means we can reset our changes we made with the ETS, with the iBus tool. Yeah, for example, we started the iBus tool, we switched here a light on, we drove a shutter up, and when you click then on the button revoke, everything goes back to default, like before when you started the ETS. So you have the same situation in your actuator like before. Good, so far. Then let's start with a practical demonstration. So here I have prepared the ETS project with a Combi Switch Actuator SAH and a Switch Actuator Professional with energy function. At first I would like to show you some parameters which I have set here in my Combi Actuator. Yeah, like for example here typical like safety. I have enabled here also different alarms, like for example here wind alarm, rain alarm, frost alarm and such things. The priority, the highest has wind alarm and then rain alarm, frost alarm, such things. In my switch actuator channel A, I have here enabled the staircase lighting function. So later we can test the staircase lighting function in the iBus tool. I have also enabled here the safety functions and the scenes. So when I do this, you will have here a submenu, for example, safety. And then here my channel A, safety, you will see I have set here parameter. When I now simulate safety priority 1, the output should switch on. Safety priority 2, he should go off. And when I start here, when the switching reaction on cancellation means when there is no safety or priority, he should go also on. These are the settings I made here, for example, in my channel A. You see the time function, staircase lighting, I have enabled the staircase lighting time here 4 seconds. Yeah, and some parameters like, for example, here to pump up the staircase function time. And in the menu scenes, you see here the scenes. We can have here maximum 60 scenes, and we can assign one scene to a scene number 1 to 64, our typical 8-bit scenes we have in the KNX world. So when I call later scene number 14, the output should switch on, and when I call scene number 59, the output should switch off. These are some typical settings I have made here in my Switch Actuator channel A. Channel B, for example, I have here enabled the delay for switching on and off. And in the settings, you see here delay for switching on and off. I can here enter then the time, a delay time for switching on or for off. And here I have set, for example, 5 seconds. So these are the typical settings I have made here. What else? These are default settings. And this output here reacts also to a logic. We have additionally here in our actuator independent logic functions. So these logic functions are not linked to an output. So when I click here, I have, for example, here enabled our OR gate. OR gate means I have here 2 inputs, and if one of the input is high, on the result on the output is always high. So I can use it independent, or I can say no, this output, for example, this logic also is linked here to a device. So internally linked function. So where is it, for example? Basic settings. No, where is it? Switch actuator. No, where was settings? Sorry, where is it now? Linked to output reacts. It's my output B. You see here, sorry. You see here output reacts to my logic number 2. So this independent logic is now linked to my output number B. So what else? I have here then used my output number C and D for shutter. So I can use two outputs to control here also shutter or blinds motor. Again, I have here enabled safety weather alarms and the sun protection and scenes. And then, for example, here in safety, I can set a parameter. When we have wind, drive in the position up, rain down. If we have frost alarm, go to the position 20% and so on. And if I use here the block function, then I would like to call here my scene number 3, for example. So, or here channel E and F is also used here for shutter function, the shutter function. So these are some parameters I have set in the ETS. And when we have a look on the group objects, then you will see here all the objects for my safety priority to activate via KNX Telegram, the wind alarm, 1, 2, 3, rain alarm, the logic, which is independent, logic 1, logic 2, connection A and B, the status of switch, the staircase, permanent on, the scene, and so on. Afterwards, download all the settings. Group addresses are not mandatory. And then we go to our ABB iBus tool. We start the ABB iBus tool. So then we click here on the button Connect. And then on the left side, you see the different possibilities, the demo mode, the IP devices to scan, the local network for IP devices, and supported devices. You get an overview of the devices. I would like to have a connection to a device, to my Combi actuator. So at first I have to set the connection. Go to the button Connection Manager, and here you can select the kind of communication. It's KNX Net IP tunneling, routing, USB. The same principle, the same settings like we have in the ETS. So here KNX Net IP tunneling. Then you get a list of all your IP router, IP interfaces in your network. You select one of the IP router. You can enter here user-friendly name like IP tunnel to my IP router 310. You see the IP address. You can click on the button, test connection, everything is fine, and save. Good. Then you have to enter here the individual address of the device, like my Combi actuator. Here, my 3137 recently used device. Click on the button Connect, and then the iBus tool makes a point-to-point connection and reads out the parameter settings, like for example also the values and some other information of our actuator. So on the footer, we have the possibility here we can zoom. So we can put it here in this position. And then we are here on the first page, our so-called device status. So this window gives us a brief overview of the status of all outputs. You see here output A, B, CD. You see CD is parameterized here for shutter. EF is parameterized for shutter. G for switch actuator. H here for switch actuator. So on the top, here on our header, we have a help function. So when you click here on help, and then you will see here on the right side the information here to this page. So when you jump to another page, then automatically also the help function here will change. So click again on help, and then it disappears. So if we want to send information, then we have to click here on the button select configuration mode. So and then we can also take action. You see at the moment everything is gray shaded. When I say yes, okay, and then I can also send here commands. This is only possible in the configuration mode. So additionally, you see here, for example, then the information, the application version, and we have here the revoke button. Revoke means at the moment you see the status here of my output A. He is switched off. The shutter is in the position here, position up. When I now click here on the button 1, that's like I send the value 1, KNX telegram to the actuator, you see, for a short time he switch on and goes off. This is exactly my delay function, my staircase time. Channel B, now I switch on channel B and I drive down here now my shutter. You see the motor here is in motion, it's green, which gives us the information, motor in motion. So and now when I click here on the button revoke, here I will revoke. Okay, now button works. Okay, you get here again a question: do you want to revoke the changes? Yes, it means the output here switches off after the delay switching time, and the shutter drives here in the position of 100% like before. So all changes I made when I started the iBus tool are now resetted. So I have the same situation my actuator like before. Good. What can I do also? I can send here central command, like here central on. Then all outputs, switch actuator outputs, you see here, are switched on, and the function is running. Like here, I have the staircase function time. After 4 seconds, it goes off again. I can also drive here all my shutters up and down. So I can say, okay, all shutters down. Then he sends a central command to all outputs which are parameterized as in shutter. Or I can drive here individually. I can also here recall a scene. I can enter here the scene number, for example. I can simulate here also safety priority. So now when I click here on the button, activate safety priority, and then you will see my output A, which is enabled for safety priority. He switched now on. You see the priority here is active. If I want, I can also simulate here wind alarm, like wind alarm number 1, and then you see what happens, that here my output A, he drives in the position up. and no more wind alarm. So this is here, and this let me say overview, yeah, about all our output status of the complete device. Then we can go here to the device status details. Yeah, this many device status details. Here we get a detailed overview of the status of our outputs. Output A, you see here switch actuator. We have here all green parameters. The output at the moment, the status, switch here is on, permanent on is not used, the time function is not blocked, no priority. Staircase lighting function is active. So we have parameterized it. Yes, or here my channel B, I use the on-off delay. So I have set or enabled this parameter in the ETS, and then he gives me the information that the channel B here uses this function. C and D, I use it here for shutter. You see again the position 100%. He is in the lower position. You see here green, and you see he's also linked, or he is also active for the wind alarm number 1. Wind alarm 2 and 3, he's not listening only to wind alarm number 1, but also here to rain alarm and frost alarm, but not to safety or priority. But I use also here the forced operation and the blocking function. And the automatic sun protection is also enabled in the ETS parameter. The same here, similar for our other channels. So then we come to the device ETS parameter settings. So here we get a list of the ETS parameter settings for the outputs. Like here, my output A, I have enabled the staircase lighting function. Then I can see here the time of 4 seconds. Exactly that's what I have set in the ETS. No warning time, but here also to pump up 5 times here my staircase lighting time. Or here channel B, I use here the so-called delay off function. You see delay on, no 0, but switching off delay here of 5 seconds. The same here for our shutter. You see here the travel time I have set in the ETS, travel time for driving up and a travel time for driving down. Good, then let's come to the next window. Here, for example, my logical threshold functions. In the ETS, I have enabled 2 functions. One is here my logical threshold as an OR gate, which I have parameterized in the ETS, and then you can simulate, and simulate here value 1. Then you see the status of the result is 1 because it's a OR gate. Also possible here. Or you want to test your parameterized threshold, and then you see again here the function. You can enter here threshold, and then you can see here the result. Good, but let's go into details to my channel A, to show you here maybe all the possibilities to do diagnostic. At first, you see here the channel A, the reaction of the output. For example, here it's normally opened. You see the staircase function time is active and linked not a threshold. I can switch here also the channel on or off. So when I say here on, and then you will see that the staircase lighting time here is running. You see the button is green, and after 4 seconds, the output switch off. So here you can simulate exactly an on telegram over the KNX bus and see the actuator. If it's really parameterized, everything is fine. So the next step is you can also simulate here a safety priority function. When you click here on the footer here, we have safety priority 1, and I have parameterized the ETS. Safety priority 1 is active, then the output should switch on. Test. Yes, you see here safety priority is 1, and the output here is still on. The safety priority has a higher priority than the staircase lighting function. That's why you see it is still on. Here the staircase time is not running because this one has a higher priority. So I can deactivate it, and for example, I can switch here then manually off. Good, it works. So I can also activate safety priority 2, but you see no reaction because it's not enabled in the ETS. So I can also disable here the time function. So when I click here on the button, and then this staircase lighting function is not active. So when I switch here on, then it's always on until I switch here manually off. So for maybe special cases, I can send a KNX telegram and block here the staircase lighting time. Also what I can simulate here. I can also simulate, or for example, I can call here a scene, like you see here, the overview of the scenes, like my scene number 14, and then you should also switch on. So I click enter here value 14, recall the scene, and then you will see he goes on, staircase timer is running, and after 4 seconds he switch off. Everything is fine, channel A, all parameters are okay. Then you can go, for example, next channel, channel B. Here you do again the settings. You can switch here on the channel B. You see here again the information of our delay for switching off time. You see 5 seconds. So when I send now command off, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the output switch off. Yes, also our delay for switching off works fine. And here the same, I can also here activate or deactivate here this time function. So when I say no, it's deactivated, then I can switch on, and when I switch off, it switch off immediately. So the time function here is deactivated. That can I simulate here in the ATS. Of course, we have also this group object available to do it via KNX Telegram. And here the same, the scene functions and so on. Good, then let's come to our output C and D, which is parameterized for shutter. So one channel is used for shutter up and the other channel for shutter down. So you see here application, blind shutter control with slat. That's exactly what I have set in the ETS. I have slats or lamellas. No weather alarm is active, no sun protection is active. It's parameterized, but at the moment not active. So, and no threshold. So what I can do, I can here manually, for example, drive here to shutter up and down. So when I click here, it drives the position up. And after the travel time, like for example here 6 seconds, the motor stops. You see 0% and the lamellas or the slats are completely open. Or I send here values, I go here for example to 51%, move to position, and then he drives to 51%. Afterwards he stops, and you see here the height now are 51%. So I can also here simulate some wind alarms. So I have to go a little bit down here. Then you have on the footer again here our wind alarms. You can click here on the button activate wind alarm. So then you will see what happens. He drives in the position, in the safety position up. Just a second, I have here to click. So then I can zoom here a little bit. Just wait. So then you will see general our safety weather alarm is active, and you see here the icon which is now colored. You see the wind alarm number 1 is active, and he drives in the safety position 0%. I cannot drive down again because wind alarm has a higher priority. So now I activate here my wind alarm number 2. Nothing happens because it is not used here. Now when I simulate here rain alarm, you see the icon here, rain alarm goes on, but no reaction because I have set in the ETS highest priority wind alarm, and then rain alarm, and then frost alarm. So now I activate here frost alarm. You see he's still in the safety position, 0%, position up. When I deactivate now the wind alarm, and then the next priority is the rain alarm. And in the ETS I set rain alarm, go to position down, then you will see 100%. Yes, he's in the position down, everything is fine. And when I deactivate rain alarm, we have here our frost alarm, and frost alarm I have set go to 20% height and 20% here of the position of the lamellas. So everything here is fine, everything is good, the priority works, I can deactivate. So when I activate here a block function, also possibility. So I click here on block, and block I said please call the C number 11, and C number 11 was 35%. Then you will see exactly, yes, he drives into this height of my C number 11 here, 35%. So everything is fine, everything is good. Parameters, settings I have made in ETS are all fine, and it's good. Now when I activate here the sun protection means, depending on the information, sun outside, yes or no, I can say drive in a position up, down to an individual position, or here I have set in the ETS, if there is sun, drive in the position down. So then let's simulate here sun. I can click here, activate sun, and then he believes there's information from a weather sensor which gives us the information sun. Then you will see he drives in the position 100%, position down. Everything is good. I deactivate the sun, say no more sun, and then he drives in the position up, and after 6 seconds he is in the position up, and then you will see that here our automatic sun protection is parameterized. Everything works really fine. Good. If I want to active, for example, here the automatic control blocked, I get the information option has been disabled in the ETS. I can only trigger here some functions which are enabled in the ETS. Good. So far my shutter actuator, channel C and D, and E and F, for example, I can do the same, but here I have enabled no scenes. That's why you see here no windows of the scenes. I have not enabled the block function. Then I can test here also some steps. I can drive here up and down. I can simulate, for example, here wind alarm. Say, okay, wind alarm like before. You see the wind alarm is active. But what happens when the wind alarm, when he's finished the position, you see, oh, he drives in the position 100%. 100% means down. But this is not good. We want to have in the position up 0%. So what happens? I made a mistake in the ETS. Yeah, here, this is the wrong position for wind alarm. Then we go back to the ETS, go here to my channel number B. Then you will see, my second shutter channel, which is channel E and F. Go here to safety, and then you will see, oh, this is my mistake. Reaction on wind alarm, I set here the parameter down and not up. So this is here my mistake. I made here really a failure, so I change it here and say up, in the position up, make again a download, go back to the ETS, and then you will see if there's wind alarm number 1, it drives in safety position up. So this is really a nice possibility to test all your parameter settings you have made in the ETS. Good, so no more wind alarm. So far the settings here, or the parameters of the ABB iBus tool together with the Combi Switch Shutter Actuator. For shutter and here also for Switch Actuator. Good, so then let's stop here and we go to our next device, which is a Switch Actuator with energy functions. So let's go here to the ETS, to my other device, Switch Actuator with energy function. He has in principle the same function like the Combi Actuator for switching plus energy. Energy means he measures the current, and with the information of the voltage and the power factor, he can calculate the power and together with the time, the energy. So this device has also here 8 channels. I go here to the settings of my channel A, for example. At channel A, I can also enable here safety objects. I can use here also scenes, load shedding, for example, if I have a device like an energy analyzer who gets the information of all the power of my devices, and depending our threshold, we can send here, or the device can send some load shedding stages to reduce the power and installation. Good, we have here the typical settings like before our Combi Actuator, basic settings for safety priority, for blocking functions, or here for load shedding, the shedding stage, the scenes like before. And here we have now the so-called current measurement. Here we can set the parameters for current measuring, milliamps or amps, and then we have here the value as a group object available on KNX. For energy, we can enable the power calculation, the energy consumption, and also the load monitoring. And we can say that this channel reports to our energy group number 1. We can have here in the energy in the device up to 4 energy groups, and then we can say this output A should send also the values of energy to the group number 1. The same output B, output C, output D. This is, for example, good information because the energy group sums up values from my channels. So I can say, for example, here my output number A is my room 301, output B is my room 302, output C room 303, and so on. And the energy group 1, you can say this room 301, 2, 3, 4, 5 should also report all the energy values into my energy group number 1. And then later, when you have a look in the iBus tool or on the KNX bus, you will have here in the energy group number 1 all the values sums up here from these 5 channels. So it's really a nice feature to see here the values of some more channels. Good, so what else? When you go here then to our menu current measurement, we can enable the current, the energy, the power. So then in the power we have to set here the voltage and the power factor. Here via the ETS or also via group telegram. If you have a device which can measure the power factor and the voltage, it can be used here for calculating the power. For energy, we can also set here a parameter in kilowatt hours or in watt hours. And of course, for calculating the energy, we need date and time. And the load monitoring is an additional feature to monitor our load. We can work here with up to 5 ranges. Yeah, one is, for example, here our overload range. Then we have here our so-called the maximum threshold. We have the overload. We have green is our default or our standard operation mode. Then we have here a so-called standby, and when we are in the off mode. You can set these thresholds here in watts for power or for current. And then when our load changes here, then we will see later in the IBUS tool or as a KNX telegram in which range at the moment here is our load. You get it here, the information on KNX in a 1-byte telegram or also in individual bits. And additional feature is our contact supervision. It means we can monitor the relay and the current. Like for example, when we switch on, the relay glows, a current must flow. If not, then for example, a MCB has tripped or we have a phase failure. That's what we can do, for example, here via this so-called contact supervision. So I have set here some parameters. I have made a download, and then we start now the IBUS tool. The address here is 3117, connect, and then we see exactly these additional energy functions in the IBUS tool. So please wait some seconds, because the IBUS tool makes now the point-to-point connection and reads out all the parameters and the energy values, the power values, and so on. Good. Okay, so then we are again on the same pages like before in the Combi Actuator. We have here the device status, we have the details of the outputs, we have the ETS parameter settings the same, and in the Switch Actuator per channel we have the same information like before. First let me go here to the configuration mode, plus here the information of the energy values. You see at the moment current is 0, we see the voltage, the power factor, the power, the total meter values in kilowatt hours, and also when the meter has started. So when I switch now on my output, you see the output is switched on, then we have here a delay time, a measurement delay time of 4 seconds, and after 4 seconds you will see here the current, we see here the power, 100 watt, I have here incandescence lamps, about 100 watt, and I see here also my meter values. So this is the additional function when you use the switch actuator with energy function. The same here, for example, for channel B. So when I switch on here my channel B, then you will see after the delay time, after 4 seconds, we get here then the energy functions. You see here the current, and you see here, of course, then the voltage. So, and here you can trigger again the safety, you can call scenes if they are enabled, shading stages, and so on. So, but I would like to go to the energy functions. The energy functions, you see here the overview of the energy of the first, I have enabled here 4 channels. You see here output D, output C, output A. Oh, but where is the energy of my output B? Not visible. Oh. I have made a mistake in the parameter settings. So I go back here to my switch actuator, channel B, go here to energy. Then you will see enable function energy consumption. No, it was not ticked. So that's why it is not active. So I have forgotten here to tick it. Thanks to the IBUS tool, I found here exactly the mistake. Then the ETS, I can tick it, download, and so on. So here on the right side, you see the power of the outputs. At the moment here, my output A and my output B. All other outputs now are switched off. That's why you see here no power available. Good. Then let's go here to my energy groups. You can select here also energy groups, or you can go here to a single output. So when we click here, outputs, then you get an overview here of output A to H. So I start here with output A. Output A, you get at first here the overview on off. You can switch here on off. You see here the current. You see here the voltage. You can change it also here the voltage. You see the power. Here, for example, about 75 watts. You see the meter, total meter in kilowatt hours. You see the energy of today. And you see here the daily recording of the last 2 days. The energy, like for example, this was yesterday, and this was the day before yesterday. So here on the right side, you can see the so-called load monitoring. Remember these ranges: off, standby, underload, in operation, and overload. At the moment, I have here about 75 watts. Just click here, 75. So I'm here in the normal operation mode between my threshold 60 and 90 watts. So now when I here add more load, for example, I can simulate it here via my incandescence lamps. So now I have connected another incandescent lamp. Then you will see that I have now here 100 watts. So I now exceed here this operation mode. I'm the overload mode. And when I add another one, another load, another 25 watts, then you will see that the load is now here out of my range, of my overload range, because I have now more than 120. And then you will see I'm here red, which is not good because then something is wrong. A device needs more energy, a motor, for example, because something blocks the motor, or something here is wrong in my installation. So now when I disconnect here again the load, then you will see, go back here to my default, he goes to my normal in operation mode, about 75%. So what happens when I disconnect the complete load? Like maybe I simulate here that the MCB has now tripped and switched off, no current flows, but the actuator said I'm switched on, and then you will see that the contact is closed, but no current flows. Oh, there's something wrong. Phase failure, MCB has tripped, and so on. You have, of course, this information also as a KNX telegram, but here in the IBUS tool, I will see it here in a transparent manner. Good. So this was my channel A. I can go now to my channel B. Channel B. You see here in my channel B, I have here less functionality because I have enabled not all the parameters. Then let's go, for example, here, and output B is now switched on. You see the current. You see here about 50 watts, my load at the moment. And now what happens when I connect here more? Then I leave here my operating mode because I have now more than 60 watt. You see again here it becomes red. Here my channel B, I use not all 4 areas or ranges. I use only here monitoring if I'm here in operation or not. When I have less than 10 watts or more than 60, I have the information here as a telegram also on KNX and can react. Good, then we can go to the other channels, like here my output C. Output C, I have here also the possibility to switch on. Then I get here again my current, my power, and I have here enabled the so-called intermediate meter in the ATS. Intermediate meter means I can start and stop this intermediate meter, and then when I stop it, he shows me the value. So, and in this display, this view here, you can see the last 3 values of this intermediate meter. So when I start again, and after some time via a time switch or via switch on and off, I show then here the last value of this intermediate meter. Also nice functionality with the informations are stored in the actuator, and via the IBUS tool I can read out this information. Good, so far channel D, energy function, channel D. I can go also here to my channel D. And test here also the settings, switch on. I see then here the load, the recordings of the last 5 days, and so on. Good, so far time is running. I think I'm at the end of my presentation. Do not forget, when you make an update, at first the firmware, next step is to convert the application and to make a full download, and then you can use the IBUS tool together with our different combi switch actuator, standard switch actuator, professional switch actuator, and professional switch actuator with energy functions. I would like to say thank you for your participation, and I hand over now to Thorsten.
Yeah, thank you, Jürgen, for your comprehensive preparation and also demonstration finally. Finally you also made it to integrate the switch actuators, our current switch actuators, into the ABB IBUS tool, but you have seen it's pretty comprehensive what we have done, and but quite useful, I think. And switch actuators are still mass products you need very often, and having such an additional optional tool to do all the steps we have seen, device handling, troubleshooting, commissioning, maintenance will be supported, and finally the energy monitoring values can be seen. This is, I think, really good. And keep in mind, it's only ABB who can offer something like this. It's unique for our ABB IBUS KNX devices. And by the way, if you don't want to have any access to these components via the tool, you can also block this in the ETS parameterization. So then it's completely not possible to access, or only values can be seen, but you cannot take action to simulate or to switch anything. Then allow me to go to our final slides as always. So you find all the training content, including this one very soon, which is in always the presentation and the video recording in our training and qualification database on our homepage. You find it there, and the videos are also on our YouTube channels available. We have also a calendar, a training and qualification calendar with the next events or whatever we do, webinars we are doing continuously. You find it here as well on our homepage. Regarding the product itself, the products, the switch actuators, but also the tool. Also this, of course, will be found on our homepage. As you have heard, the tool, the IBAS tool, is free of charge. You can download it from our homepage. And if you need further information about the products, you know, it's also under products and downloads and available, everything around the products. Thank you for your participation. Thank you, Jürgen, for your work you have done for us. Hope to see you next time. Invitations will be sent out. At the moment, not clear what is the next session because we have not only one product in the next time coming, so we will decide what will be the most important one, but invitation, as always, will be sent to you. Thank you again for your participation. See you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye. Ciao.